Bienvenidos a un nuevo Palomitas con Wasabi. Hoy es una entrevista muy especial. Como veis, no estoy en el cine, no estoy en Kinépolis, porque estoy haciendo una videollamada y es que hoy vamos a entrevistar a alguien que está ahora mismo en Inglaterra. Es alguien que ha trabajado en todas las películas de Harry Potter y es amigo íntimo también de Daniel Radcliffe. Estamos hablando de David Holmes, el protagonista del documental The Boy Who Lived que tenéis en HBO Max, que habla de su trabajo como especialista desde que empieza en la primera película, en la Piedra Filosofal, hasta que tiene un accidente que le deja en silla de ruedas en Las Reliquias de la Muerte. Y es que recientemente, aparte del documental, que como buenos fans de Harry Potter seguro que ya habéis visto, ha sacado un libro que es como la versión extendida y sin censura y con sexo y con drogas de este documental donde habla de su vida, que es muy interesante, la verdad. Y yo he dicho, mira, es que me gusta tanto a este hombre, o sea, me gusta tanto de las cosas de las que habla este hombre, la filosofía que tiene y tal, que tiene que venirse al canal, así que le he escrito, se va a venir, nos va a contar cosas. Voy a ver si nos cuenta, pues si nos habla de su relación con Daniel Radcliffe, si nos habla también de cosas que no han salido en el documental y de cosas que no han salido en el libro. Bueno, no me voy a enrollar más, ya sabéis que yo soy fan de Harry Potter, siempre hablo del cómo se hizo Harry Potter, aprendemos mucho cine con Harry Potter y hoy estoy muy contento de traer a una de las personas que más conoce lo que ocurrió detrás de las cámaras porque estuvo allí viviéndolo. Hoy en Palomitas con Wasabi, David Holmes.
It's all yours. Let's roll.
Yeah. I'll try. I want to ask you so many questions, but I've made like, I don't know. I'll try to make this as short as possible because I want to ask you about everything in the book. I've been following you for the last 2-3 years, and now you have published your book, The Boy Who Lived, which is like, I felt like this is the uncensored version of the documentary from Max. It's like your director's cut, right? What are we going to find in this book?
A lot of stuff that they wouldn't want to put on a HBO documentary, that's for sure. So what would you find in the book? More Harry Potter stories, some of them of like my adventures on camera and off camera, some of the mishaps and like sort of situations I found myself in, some of my relationships with the crew members, a closer mention on how me and Dan became best friends and how our relationship grew. And then the second half of the book, it's what it's like to break your neck and then rebuild a life after a devastating spinal cord injury, and you know, owning up to the mistakes I made along the way, and there were plenty of them, but peppered with a lot of humor and a lot of self-reflection. It was a hard thing to write, to relive my best and worst days in writing for 2 years, but it was also cathartic, and I feel like I was able to give more of myself than what you could cut down to 90 minutes in a HBO documentary. And also, it's definitely not PC. You know, it's not for a young audience. If you've got any
Not at all.
young audience members, please I'm writing a children's book about a teenage stunt double. You'll get that version of my story for young minds, but this is very much a book for the audiences that grew up on Harry Potter that are now rediscovering those movies with their kids. But just don't let your kids read it, please.
So when you began working, let's begin with your work as a stuntman, which is really interesting. When you began in the Harry Potter movies from the very beginning, did you imagine that you were going to be working in this franchise for so long?
There was always the risk that Dan grew. You know, I was small man, and that made it perfect for me to not double just Dan, but also some of the younger cast in the early movies. Now, a lot of the other cast members had their growth spurts. Thankfully, Daniel didn't. He only grew a little bit taller than me, so I was able to retain my job. But when you're making a film, you just don't know how successful it's going to be. And like, I'd done Lost in Space at the age of 14, and I thought that was going to be the biggest movie hit of the summer, and it just didn't do as well. It didn't get that good reviews, and it was like a harsh lesson into okay, you might be able to spend $100 million on a picture, but sometimes it just doesn't play out in the screens and doesn't find its audience.
That was your first
With
movie,
Harry
right?
Potter, sorry?
That was your first movie, Lost in Space,
That
right?
was my first movie, Lost in Space. Yeah, I was 13. Hanging around with Matt LeBlanc, Joey from Friends. It was so much fun. So it was. So I had that experience at a young age, and I always knew I wanted to be a stunt double. And then I was gifted a phone call from my stunt coordinator, Greg, and he called me in to do the first broomstick test, making me the world's first Quidditch player. And then that first broomstick test, at the end of it, Chris Columbus, the director, came up, shook my hand, he pointed to Greg and said, this is our guy. So then we spent a whole year filming the first Harry Potter film. And as that film was being made, just before it came out, the fourth book was being released. Okay. And we're seeing kids and parents camp outside bookshops till midnight to get the opportunity to read it really early. So the Hogwarts Express had truly left the building when it comes to the books. Now, when the film came out, the same massive fanfare happened. And I mean, the train was at full pace from then. So we went into the second film knowing that it was going to be something, it was definitely finding its audience.
Did you read the books before working in the Philosopher's Stone?
Yeah, just before. I met the stunt coordinator on one other day's work. He just said to me, I might be working on this kid's film, Harry Potter something and something. And I know, he just finished Lord of the Rings and he was doing Band of Brothers. And he said, I was going to finish Band of Brothers and then do this kid's film. Can I take your phone number and I'll give you a call to see if there's any work for you? Me thinking nothing of it, gave him my mobile number, went back to gymnastics training, went back to school. And then I got a phone call when I was at college, the second year of college. And he said, come in and we're going to do some stunt tests with you. And then that was it. I became the world's first Quidditch player and secured my job as lead stunt double for Harry Potter. It was a life-changing experience.
When you started working, you were 17 years old and Daniel Radcliffe was 11. So there was a difference of age. For him, you were like a mentor in the beginning, right? Were you the same size?
He was a little bit smaller than me in the beginning, but he hadn't yet gone through his growth spurt. But we would go into the stunt department and I would do some training with him. So I was already a sort of a gymnast and a gymnastics coach. So I would teach him gymnastics moves, we'd do keep fit, and we'd work on his physicality. The job of a good stunt double is to not only study the person's physical abilities so you can mimic them, but also help them build on their physical abilities. So I would take Dan into the stunt department for 2 to 3 days a week. We would shut the doors and we would play. Oh, hello, Wasabi's cat.
Yeah, that's my cat.
And we would play. And what I mean by play is we'd jump on trampolines, we'd swing around rubber swords doing sword fighting, we'd fall off of porta cabins, we'd fly them on wires, we'd do judo, we'd do a press-up game, which is a really fun game where you try and pull each other's arms out from underneath each other.
Sounds fun.
And it was an environment where Dan could just be a kid away from the pressures of the film set. And also schooling.
Because you said in the book that he wanted to be a stuntman. At some point, he decided that...
First 2 films, after the first films, he had so much fun with me that he was mentioning in a few interviews that if it didn't work out as an actor, he would consider a career in stunts, which cheered me right up. And he definitely could have been a stunt performer. His physical abilities, he's brave, he's attentive, he's a sponge. He's constantly learning off of people and constantly trying to improve on himself. He's got an amazing work ethic. So we're very similar like that. And then we continued our stunt training throughout the whole franchise.
Oh, that's cool.
And our relationship changed from little brother, big brother to best friend. And we would spend, 3 days a week just training, venting off, like take some of the pressure off of what the set meant, and create an environment where he just felt like comfortable to talk and to talk about what he was going through. Sometimes he had to prepare for a really emotional scene. So what I would do is I'd ramp up the training beforehand so that he could find a way to sort of expel the building emotion that was required for whatever he was shooting. For example, like the Sirius Black scene, when Sirius Black passes away,
That sounds so fun.
Yeah, it's brilliant fun. Yeah, we had such a laugh, and
I wanted to ask you, because you've been making the stunt work for Daniel Radcliffe in so many shots, but where else can we see your work in the movies? Because as you said in the book, you say that you are one of the few, or maybe the only one in the franchise who have worn all the uniforms from all the 4 Howard's houses. So where else can we see you in the movies? Where else can we see your work?
So I am the Ron in the chess piece. In the wizard's chess at the end of the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
When Ron sacrifices himself. That's me sacrificing myself off the back of the horse. I'm the Hermione under the bathroom stalls as the troll smashes through the bathroom stalls.
Oh.
I am the Malfoy spinning away in the dueling sequence on Harry Potter 2, landing in front of Professor Snape. I'm also I'm the Malfoy as he comes off of his broomstick in the Quidditch match in Harry Potter 2. And I lined up shots for pretty much all the young cast. And if there was someone on a broomstick, it was me sitting on the broomstick preparing the shot beforehand.
Is it comfortable? Is it comfortable to be in the broomstick? I suppose not.
Not at all. No, my undercarriage hates me for it. It over the years it upgraded, but in the very beginning, if people want to know what it's like to sit on a broomstick, sit on a bicycle seat, take your feet off the pedals, lean forwards with all your weight, and that's a close comparison. But then imagine if that bike was going down a really steep hill and moving and shaking at the same time. So not the comfortablest of places.
You just mentioned one stunt that I love, the one in the duel fight in the Chamber of Secrets, where you were performing Draco Malfoy. You mentioned in the book that each take, you talk about money in the book, which is something that I really like. I want to ask you about this, because you make money for each take. You were making £1,000 for each of these takes of this scene.
Yeah.
Is this something that changes? Do you negotiate? How does it work?
You negotiate with your stunt coordinator, and depending on how dangerous the stunt is and how much risk to injury there is, that depends on how much you get per take. Now, for example, if you're going to get run over by a car, it's a minimum of £3,500 now. If you're going to set yourself on fire and it's a full body burn, that's a £3,000 a take. So you don't mind when they go, we'll go again, because you're going to get paid again. And the whole idea of stunt work is you perform something dangerous.
Let me take my cat out, which is annoying me.
No, I love the cat. Bring the cat in. Yeah.
Sorry. You were saying.
So the idea of stunt work is that you perform a stunt that's dangerous, but you perform it as safely as possible, so you can perform it again. That is the whole idea of stunt work, because back in the day before that was digital, there was rolling film, and there could be so many technical complications that means that, oh no, we've actually got to redo that stunt again. So there could be something with the film mag running through the camera that causes a problem, or someone crosses in front of a light causes a shadow, or there's a noise in the background. So there's so many working parts that you have to get right. So that's why stunt work means you have to perform the gag more than once. And we don't mind when we're getting paid more than once. I mean, my best payday was when Harry falls off of his broomsticks from fainting on Harry Potter 3 when he's in the Quidditch match. and the Dementors make him pass out on the broomstick.
Okay.
I spent a whole day falling out of a 70-foot high stage at
Wow.
Shepperton Studios. Some of them into an airbag, some of them assisted on a wire, and it was an £11,000 payday. So yeah,
Wow.
that was a good week. That was a good weekend.
And that was fun as well, right?
Yeah, brilliant. Like getting paid to do what you love.
The catchphrase that stunt performers you say you use is "never show pain, never complain." I think it can give you the idea of how hard your work is, because you mentioned in the book that you got less rights than the animals in lifting studios, right?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I mean, there's do you know when Harry and Ron do not get onto the platform 9 3/4?
Yeah.
Well, that's me as Harry smashing into the trolley and falling over, and my friend Tony Christian as Ron.
Wow.
And obviously, there's animals in cages on the trolleys. They had to be replaced with, like fake animals in there, because obviously you can't hurt an animal, but you can hurt a stuntman running into a waterfall pelt.
That was a proper wall, right?
That was a proper wall at King's Cross, and it did definitely hurt. But it's a great scene in the film, and it's just it's memorable. Now I see kids recreating that stunt on YouTube all the time. Yeah, it's like becomes a meme of kids trying to run into 9 3/4. I will say to anyone watching this, don't try that. Trust me, I know it hurts.
Don't try it unless you get paid for it, right?
Unless you're getting paid for it, exactly. Don't give nothing away for free.
Was that the most painful stunt you have ever performed?
Oh no, I've done loads of stuff. Loads and loads and loads of stuff.
What was the most second painful stunt you have ever performed?
Oh, I'd say, do you know when Harry trips off of his broomstick in the first Harry Potter and catches the snitch in his mouth?
Yeah.
I had to do a reference shot. So it was made by CG artists on a computer, but you have to give them a physical shot for them to render against. So the idea was we got a skateboard, a quad bike and a tow rope. And I was in a gimp suit, so like a thin piece of suit, like body flesh with dots all over it, so the cameras can pick up my body, like my limbs. And it was a freezing cold morning, and I was dragged at about 20 mile an hour, maybe even 30, on a skateboard into a really small wall, and then the skateboard hits the wall and I fly off and do the 2 rolls that you see Harry do. Now, on one of the takes, a stone went underneath the wheels of the skateboard and whipped the skateboard out, and I had to try and run it off, but I was going too fast, so I stubbed both my toes into the floor and done a somersault to try and kill the inertia. And in doing that, I busted my toe and ripped my toenail off.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean that, and then on Harry Potter 4, I got a slight case of the bends. That's pretty dangerous. I mean, where if you are working underwater, you get oxygen bubbles in your blood, and they cause your arms to cramp up, and the bubbles can go to your brain and kill you. So it's a pretty scary thing. And I remember driving home one day and feeling like I was going to black out, and I had to get my friend to swap seats. And then, not on Harry Potter, but I done a commercial for the mini convertible when they launched that car, and I had to jump from a small trampoline over the back of the car into the driver's seat, land and drive the car off. And I smashed my face on the windscreen, I smashed my nuts on the seat, I landed on the gear stick, you name it, I hit it. But it's part of it, that's the job.
Wow. You were mentioning the water tank scenes in the 4th movie of Harry Potter. You got a chest infection, and you have also broke your ribs, right?
Yeah, I had a broken rib on Harry Potter 1, got a chest infection on Harry Potter 4 by swallowing a lungful of water. Just bumps, bruises were irregular. Like on Prince of Persia, I had an actor stick the hilt of a sword in my nose and rip the internal lining of my nose off.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been knocked around.
Wow. So what is the most difficult stunt you have ever performed? You told the most painful one, but which is the most difficult one?
I'd say that mini commercial was really hard because it was filmed at night, and I had to jump from the back of a vehicle, and I had maybe 1 inch each side from the steering wheel to the bottom of the chair to try and get my feet into the footwell. Now, because it was filmed at night and they put big lights in front of my face and a big smoke screen to jump in front of, I couldn't spot my landing. So that's why I ended up hitting the windshield and the dashboard and taking multiple attempts. It was really, really difficult to do. I actually managed to fix it by getting some small little red lights and putting them in the footwell of the car. So the moment I jumped over the back of the car, I could spot the lights in the footwell, so I knew where to point my toes to get my feet so I can land into the seat. And I landed, put my seatbelt on, and drove the car off.
That sounds hard.
It was really hard, yeah.
Well, you were a successful stuntman. You had this second life. You talk about this in the book. In the weekends, in the documentary, we don't see these details, but you have written about the parties, the drugs, the sex. How could your body survive to being partying all the weekend and then working as a stuntman in the franchise?
So when I was working, it was always out on a Friday night and then sort of go to bed early Saturday morning and then recover all the way through to Sunday. And you know, stuntmen, we are risk takers and we take risks in front of camera and also in our own lives. And I was at an age where I was discovering all of that. And I had fun, and you know, I had my time, and by the time my accident happened, I was kind of getting over it a little bit. I was like, I wanted a new phase in my life. Like everyone experiments with alcohol and mind-altering substances, it became sort of boring after a while. And then my accident happened, and then I thought, oh, that's the life you should be trying to recover. And well, turns out it's a great way to avoid the trauma of what I was going through, which was facing a life with a broken neck, you know, a completely altered life. So I made lots of mistakes post-accident to try and recover that lifestyle. And I own up about it in the book, and makes for some funny stories. But ultimately, I look at who I was back then, and I would say I was just a scared little boy, not really willing to be accountable for his actions or face with the life that I'm living in now. So when I was working, it was very much like you have your fun on the Friday night, and then by Sunday you're fully recovered, because by Monday you're straight back into it. And a stunt crew works like a Formula One pit lane crew. You know, you all rely on each other's livelihoods and each other's lives to the maximum. So you train hard, you work hard, and then on Friday night you play hard.
What was the hardest part to digest and accept in your new life after the accident?
There's so much, and truthfully, it's an everyday thing. You know, like it's every day you have to accept that, you know, from the moment I wake up, I need assistance to get out of bed. I need someone to help me shower. I need, you know, someone to help me with food, with getting drinks. I have lost every level of independence, what most people take for granted. But I also, like, I'm glad that it didn't change the person I am to the core. Which someone asked me recently, what am I most proud of? And I'd say it's the fact that I broke my neck and it didn't change me. Like, it fundamentally changed me. You know, I'm not bitter, I'm not twisted, I'm not, you know, I don't play the victim card. I just, you know, I am what I am, and I'm just in the situation that I'm in. So there's every day it takes, you know, acceptance is an everyday thing. And my my superhero in life, one of the real life superheroes, is Michael J. Fox, who played Marty McFly in the Back to the Future movies. Michael J. Fox is living with Parkinson's disease, and that is a terrible, terrible disease to have to battle. And he says it right, and he says, with gratitude, optimism is sustainable. So if you can find something to be grateful for every day, then you can carry on. Now, today it's cold, but the sun is shining.
It's sunny.
So, you know, yeah, it's beautiful. The trees are like giving us their last gift, and you can hear the birds tweeting, and I'm spending time with people that I love. And, you know, I wake up and I'm breathing independently. I'm talking to Wasabi, a top streamer and YouTuber, and I'm able to share perspective. So, yeah, with gratitude, optimism is sustainable.
When did you realize that you were not a victim, but a survivor?
Very quickly, because when I went into hospital, I met people that have got their spinal cord injuries through terrorist attacks or hate crimes or domestic violence. I was a stuntman. I was a known risk taker, and I chose a job with risks, and it made me own up to that fact very, very quickly. And also, if you hold on to hate, my accident wasn't my fault. I had no control over what happened to me. But if you hold on to hate and blame, the person you hurt the most is you. So letting go of that negative energy is all part of the process of healing. And I'm fortunate that I was able to come to that mindset very quickly. But it was just at the unfortunate expense of the people that I was sharing a hospital ward with.
What would you say to someone who wants to be a stunt performer, stunt performance? Has the profession changed?
Yeah, big
through the
time.
years?
Yeah, the method that caused my accident is completely banned, and new safe working loads and structured like new communication skills are in place. I mean, it's still a risky job. You should not go into work not expecting to pick up a bump or bruise, maybe a broken bone, but broken neck's a pretty extreme case of it. But yeah, it's the best job in the world. I got to travel the world. I went, you know, Morocco, Tunisia, Slovakia, Spain, some of the greatest locations in London, hanging around with the most talented creatives the industry could, like, you know, put you next to, and you create great memories. So if it's your passion, you want to go for it, then go for it. But also, anybody who wants to get in the creative industry, even if you can't paint or take a picture, there's still a job for you. You know, if you're good at building things, you can be a set maker. If you're good at taking a photo, you can work in the camera department. And nowadays we can all direct a phone and create content with one of these things.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I take a photo with my nose. You know, I have one working hand and a nose, and I still take an amazing photograph because I always spot when the light is right. And that's because I grew up on a film set. And so my life and my memories are a 16:9 film frame.
Yeah.
You know, right now it's what is the light giving me, the gift? Like, you know, where would I put a camera in this room to capture this moment? Like, all of those, that's how I film my memories. Now, there are some people in my life that when they have their dreams are almost narrated, you know, because they read a lot. My dreams are very, very visual. So, yeah, if you want to get involved in the creative industry and it's a passion, just if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And I can honestly say, as a stunt performer, I never worked a day.
I wanted to ask you something else about pain, because pain is something that appears in all the time in your book as a stunt performance and after the accident. So what would you recommend to us about feeling pain?
Pain is inevitable for all of us in life, whether that's physical or emotional. Life hurts. Like, emotionally, we're given a gift of life, and then you have to make your peace with things being taken away from you. You know, you lose the pets that you love, you lose the parents that you love, You lose your physical body that you love, like your physical abilities. Now, I learned that lesson at 25, the hardest of ways. So making friends with your pain, like trying to, not being scared of it, but embrace it and understand that it is all part of the human journey, helps you accept it, helps you deal with it a lot easier. I always say to people, if they're about to go for a bout of surgery, there's a really good trick that you can do, which is get the surgeon and get them to hold your hand and look them in the eye and say, I trust you are the best person to look after me, and I trust my life is in your hands and you are really capable. And there's been studies to show that by making that human connection, just by holding on to someone and shaking their hand, that you require less pain medication and you recover quicker. So you'd be surprised how strong your brain is. You know, I'm in chronic pain every day. Like every day I'm having to let go of the remaining function of this side of my body. But if I lean into that and focus on it, it hurts more. But if I just go, right, you're there, and that's, you know, I have no control over that, then you can sort of park it and move on.
You have talked in your Instagram account many things about healing, about the problems of being in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You're becoming the Yoda master, the master of pain. I don't know. You've done. I encourage everyone to follow you in your Instagram account because you talk about so many interesting things. But lately, apart from the video where Daniel Radcliffe is talking about your book, you were portrayed completely naked with fire on your head. What is this all about?
Yep. So I was approached by a photographer who wanted to submit my portrait to the National Portrait Gallery in London. And he said, do you have any ideas? And I said, well, a matter of fact, I do. And I suggested sitting naked on a shower chair and setting my head on fire. So I used my friends in the stunt industry to come over and do it safely, which I know it can be done. And the idea of that picture is to start a conversation. I needed to tell people that despite living with a broken neck, I'm the same man I've always been. You know, someone that's willing to take risks for the sake of telling a story, for the sake of creating art. And I still am that man and still will always be that man. So
you're still a stuntman, right?
Still a stuntman. I'm still an honorary member of the British Stunt Register. And if I didn't have such a busy year, I'd have set my whole body on fire. But yeah, I mean, I might do it as a protest in front of Parliament soon, because at the moment we still live in a society where my community is not represented or looked after enough.
You want to do it for real?
Yeah, I mean, I'm considering it. Yeah, I'm currently lobbying the government through various causes to try and get representation. Right now in the UK Parliament, negotiating the Right to Death campaign, where the people get a choice to end their own life or not. And I would always say that, you know, that's really easy for vulnerable members of society, disabled people especially, to feel obliged that they have to do it because they're not contributing to society. So whilst you're negotiating the right for death, why don't we have someone that gives me and my community and my friends and people that I love a right for life, which is a life that is living in a society that accepts us for who we are, you know, for how we are. And I say to anyone that's disabled, don't ever think you're less than. You're always more than, you know, like we are the world's best problem solvers. We are, because we have to be, because we have to navigate in a world that's not set up for us. And I have lived an amazing life as a disabled man. I've traveled the world, I've written books, I've made films, I've been, you know, written essays in the New York Times, I've sat naked and set my head on fire. I've, you know, fallen in love, I've managed to hold my breath for 4.5 minutes, you know, you name it, I've been able to do it with a broken neck. So yeah, never give up is what I say.
You have so many crazy stories when you were making the Harry Potter franchise. In the book, I wanted to know which is the most crazy behind the scenes
Oh,
story that you have, because I read one while filming The Prisoner of Azkaban, where you fall asleep in the bath, which is really, really funny.
yes, I made a mistake. Yeah,
Yeah, which is the most crazy story
so many.
where while you were working as a
I
stunt
tell right,
performer.
so that one's in the book. So if people want to read it, they're gonna have to read the book. But I'll tell you one that's not in the book. Um,
Okay.
my first day's work on set with the film crew on Harry Potter, not the stunt rehearsal on the broomstick, but the actual first day was when the children are on the Hogwarts Express and they are arriving at at the Hogsmeade train station, and they're on the Hogwarts Express, and we were doing a split day for night. Okay, so that means we shot the
Okay.
day, the stuff that was in daytime first, and then as the darkness come over, then we done a night shot. So
Yeah.
as the Hogwarts Express arrives, it's actually at night. So my boss said to me, "Get on the train and make sure none of the kids mess around, and are like, and they do their job, because I don't want to be here all night because an extra makes a mistake." So I'm on the back of the Hogwarts Express. I've been given a radio that says stunts. I'm 17 years old, very confident, loving my first day's work. And there was this 16-year-old girl that kept talking to me. She was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm stunts. I'm here to make sure you do everything safely." She was like, "No, you're not." I was like, "What does the radio say?" Anyway, she kept talking and talking. And I said, "Look, right, get to your seat, because we're about to start the shot now," over the radio. And the train pulls back away from the station, and then it comes into the station and stops. So she's talking to me as the train's going back, and then we hear action, the train starts, and all the kids are sitting in their carriages. We've got all our hero kids in the front carriage, and all of the kids have got to come out the carriage, turn right, and get off the train. As the train pulls into the train station, and Harry, Ron, and
Okay.
Hermione get off the train and meet Hagrid, and he's got his lantern, the girl in the back of the train, instead of getting out of her carriage, turning right, she turned left, pushed me into the toilets, and gave me a big snog.
What?
So when Harry Potter is meeting Hagrid, I'm in the back of the train getting a snog from a very confident, very brave extra. Yeah. So yeah, that was my first day's work, and I was like, yeah, quitting school was a really good idea.
That's a nice beginning, man.
I know, right? I know, yeah. Well, I've got so many of those stories. I'm thinking of potentially doing a stage show so I can tell them.
If you do it, I will go to London and see it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time,
No
David. It's been a
worries,
pleasure.
Wasabi. Thank you. Listen, I will say to you and all of your followers that, I hope life is kind to you. Ultimately, it's not, but and when it's not, just like in the story of Harry, just look for the light. Just always, hope that the light is going to be there, even on the greyest of days. All you got to do is get on an aeroplane, fly high enough, the sun's there. So just remember that even when you're in dark times, that there's always better days in front of you.
David, thank you so much for your time. You're an
No
inspiration to
worries.
the Harry Potter community. I was wondering when is your book going
Yeah,
to be available in the Spanish?
we managed to get Portuguese, but no publisher from Spain has picked it up yet. So feel free to tag them when you release this video to see if a Spanish audience would like to read it. And it's going to be on digital format as well, and it's also going to be on Audible
Okay.
from January the 30th. And I'm reading it myself.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I wish I could read it. I wish I could read it in Spanish, but my Spanish is poco.
I suppose
Yeah,
that.
cool.
Thank you so much, man. Take care. Big
Take
hug.
care, mate. All the best.
Bueno, como fan de Harry Potter, y vosotros supongo que también, estoy muy contento de haber tenido a David Holmes en el canal. ¿Qué puedo deciros? Merece mucho la pena el libro si habéis consumido como yo de manera obsesiva el contenido detrás de las cámaras, porque estamos conociendo la franquicia de Harry Potter desde la perspectiva de una persona que de verdad no le cabe la humanidad en el pecho. O sea, es increíble este hombre, yo le llevo siguiendo varios años y de verdad da unas lecciones de vida increíbles, me parece un ejemplo a seguir y estoy muy contento de haberlo traído en el canal. Gracias a vosotros por el apoyo, espero que os haya gustado la entrevista y espero poder hacer entrevistas de este nivel más a menudo y traer a gente que ha trabajado en franquicias que nos gusta, que amamos, de las que somos muy fans. Espero que os haya gustado este Palomitas con Wasabi, nos vemos dentro de poco en un nuevo vídeo y hasta entonces, sed muy felices. Chao.